Okay, so today we're going to go over our Hub time clock. Our Hub time clock can be found on our main screen of our website at paysmartpa.com by clicking Hub Login. The Hub is also our portal that the employees use to access their pay stubs. So some of you may be familiar with the Hub portal already because you might be receiving your pay stubs there. So the Hub time clock, this is the administrator side. Your employees are going to see something very similar. They just won't have some of the functionality that the admin has. So for the Hub time clock, the time clock is right on the main screen. It tracks hours by day. So at the bottom, we can see by day. It also does it by week. So we can see this week and this pay period. So at any point, if an employee wants to log in and see where they are so far this week, they can look here and see that they have clocked in for their 32 hours on a Thursday afternoon, and that they should be at 40 by Friday if they work a typical 40-hour week. For an employee to clock in, their division will automatically be defaulted to what's in the system depending on what department they're in, and they click Clock In Now. And then they get this alert that they are clocked in for their beginning of their shift. We also have what's called a mulligan. Mulligans are if an employee forgets to clock in or out for the day, they have the option to submit a mulligan to their administrator. So to click a mulligan, they have this little blue link and they pick and choose the time they should have clocked in. So they would pick today. And then if they should have, now we already clocked in for the day, but they can then choose the time that they should have been clocked in. So if we need to clock out, they can also put a message to their administrator or their department manager. To alert them to why they're requesting this mulligan. And then they have the option to either clock in automatically after the request is submitted. So if right now, for example, this employee is currently clocked in for the day, if they get to 5 o'clock and they should have clocked out at 4 o'clock, they would want to submit a mulligan for 4 o'clock, and then they want to select no, they do not want to be clocked in because they're essentially choosing to clock out when they should have clocked out at 4 o'clock. And it's currently 5 o'clock.
Thank you.
Once that request is sent to the administrator, that needs to be approved by the administrator. So each administrator that's on the Hub time clock will receive an email that they will need to approve that request for that employee. So we're going to hop over to the clock. And this is where you as the administrator are going to be able to see all of the timesheets for the employees. Here is where you can see your pay period, so your start date and your end date, as well as the check date. So if we're looking at the current payroll, this would be the current pay period and the check date. If you need to go back at any point, there is the option to change the check date to see past pay dates. As the administrator, the ability to view time cards as well as edit them, and then you can also add additional pay items if needed to the time card as well. So for example, we're looking at Harvey here, and we're looking at our check date of March 1st. Does not look like Harvey clocked in at all in the past week. So if we know that Harvey worked 8 hours on Wednesday, February 16th, there's that blue plus sign to the left. If we click that, then we can actually pick the day and the date or the time that Harvey should have been here for his shift. And if we click add time entry, now that adds it to his timesheet. So when Harvey logs in next time to view his employee timesheet, he can see that we added hours for him on that particular day. If you have an employee that forgot to clock out and did not create a mulligan, or forgot to clock in and clocked in an hour after they were supposed to, on this same screen, there's also this edit button next to the total hours. From here, you can actually edit the time. So if we wanted to put that Harvey was here at 9, we can update that time entry. Or if for some reason you need to delete the time entry, you can also delete it from here as well. Sometimes there are employees who forget to clock out and they are clocked in all night. So right now the system is set up to automatically clock an employee out after a 24-hour shift. If that would happen, in this edit here, there's this change days option. Here you can pick the day. So if this was defaulting to the 17th because the employee forgot to clock out at the end of their shift, this can be changed back to the 16th and then update that time so that the time is showing on the correct day. In here, employees do not have the ability to edit their timesheets unless you would like them. So all edits must be done from the administrator's side of the Hub time clock. Administrators also have the option to add a one-time pay. So if you wanted to add an additional pay item, like a bonus to an employee, that can be added right onto their timesheet. And then you can pick a day that you want this assigned to. So if we know that they did a great job on the 21st, we could put that the employee had a great day. And then we can pick if we want to show this to the employee. So if you're looking to add bonuses to an employee for a special occasion that you want to make it a surprise, we can put no, that we don't want it to be viewable on the employee's pay stub. We just want to show it on our end so that we can push it over to payroll once it's time to process the timesheets. If you would like the employee to see it, then we can select yes, and the employee will be able to see it on their timesheet as well. So we can see here that we added a $50 bonus to Harvey on the 21st. And they will also receive the note that was typed in there as well. We can also add PTO for an employee. So the employees do have the ability to request their own PTO time. If you wanted to add them in here directly, it would show us how many hours the employee had available. So in the box, we could see that Harvey has 80 hours of vacation available, none in sick. So he would not be able to request any time off under the sick pay item. Here you can also select if you want the employee to be able to see the PTO request. Click submit. And now we can show that Harvey has 8 hours of vacation tomorrow. Yesterday on the 22nd, and he was off for the day. Once all of the timesheets are reviewed for that pay period, we have the option of approving the timesheets per employee, or we can do a batch approve. The batch approve just asks if you want to select all of the employees. And then if an employee cannot be approved, it will tell us, and it's because we clocked in as Kelly. So right now, Kelly's currently clocked in. It won't let you approve a timesheet without clocking out an employee. So we can clock Kelly out. So you have the ability to clock out an employee as well. And now we can approve just Kelly. And now all of our timesheets are approved. There's also this summary report. This is a great resource to use if you want to ensure that the payroll pulls over correctly. So if you want to keep a copy of all the hours for that particular pay period, I always suggest to our clients to print this out. That way, when it's pulled over into the PPX side for the actual payroll processing, you can verify that the hours are showing correctly and your totals match from system to system. You can also print all of the timesheets. If for some reason we would need to edit one, we can click view next to the approved employee. And we can release the approval and set back to pending. So if there was a change that came in that needed to happen after you've already approved the timesheets, you do have the ability to reopen them. So in the event when payroll is due, all the timesheets have to be approved. Once all of the timesheets are approved, this turns to generate. Generate means that the file is ready to be downloaded and then it's going to be sent to the PPX. So we'll click generate. And it'll count down from 10. And once it says view or regenerate, it is now available to be downloaded into the PPX portal. Some other features of our online time clock is the admin area. So each employee has their own special employee setup over here. In each employee, they have their own settings and features. So if not all employees have to be set up the same way. We have some employees who might be a salaried employee, but you still want them to clock in and out for keeping their record of their time. But you don't necessarily need the hours to show on their pay stub. So in here, they have the ability to, should time collected be sent to payroll, you can put yes if you want the hours to show on the pay stub, or you can select no if you just want it to be for time tracking, but not necessarily show up on the pay stub. Overtime should be calculated for all employees unless they're an exempt employee. So at that point, you can put no if they are exempt from overtime. There's also holidays. So in the online time clock, we can set up all federal holidays that your company has off for. So if you have off for Christmas Day, we can set up Christmas Day as a holiday, and the employees, if they're set up with should holidays be paid based on the observed holiday schedule, it'll automatically pay them either 8 hours if they're full-time or 4 hours if they're part-time, depending on how the system is set up. It'll automatically pay them for that holiday. So there would be no manual entry for that those holiday hours. Here is where the employee is selected for full-time or part-time. And this is for the holiday purpose. So if full-time employees are getting 8 hours, part-time employees are only getting 4 hours for a holiday. This part is important, so the system knows how many hours to pay them on that particular day. We also have an auto break policy. So if an employee should be clocked out automatically for a 30-minute break after a 4-hour shift, or a 60-minute break after 4 hours, that can be set up as well. That would be if you are not requiring your employees to clock out for lunch, if they all take lunch at the same time. We recommend that employees clock in and out from their lunch break, just in case that they would take a short lunch or a longer lunch. That way you can track it down to the minute. And the holidays and the breaks are set up under time entry rules. When you first come on with PaySmart and you want to set up the online time clock, we would provide you a document to fill out with all of these questions in it. So we set up the time clock in the beginning. And then if you have any changes, you do have the ability to make them. If something's not working the way you want it to work, if you want to change the way the clock rounds in minutes, those can be changed in here. So in here we have our rounding rule. So we have no rounding, 5-minute increments, 7 to 8 minute increments, and 15 minutes. So it's really your preference on how you want the employees' time clocks to round. No rounding is going to go down to the minute that they clock in. If an employee clocks in at 8:12, it's going to clock them in at 8:15 if we do the 15-minute increment. So it's really your preference on how you want the time clock to calculate the employee's hours. We also have overtime rule, and everyone is set up with federal overtime. We don't live in a state that has a special overtime. We also have input rules. So in the online time clock, there are 3 different options for the online time clock method. Employees can use the web clock in and out, and that's what we're demoing today. They would log into a computer using the email address and password, and they would clock in and out via a web browser. We also have the text message option. The employees would text the word clock to a phone number, and that would automatically clock them in for that shift. Then at the end of their shift, they would send clock again to the same phone number, and it would clock them out. And then we also have mobile clock in and out. This does not have GPS capability. This is just an app on their phone that gives them the ability to clock in and out via their cell phones. Or it could also be an iPad if there's a shared iPad in the office that the employees use to clock in and out. We also have IP restrictions. For an IP restriction, you could turn on the time clock on the phones, but also set up an IP restriction so that the employee at least needs to be near that IP address for them to clock in. We also have the auto break lunch policy. So this is where I had mentioned that it will automatically clock an employee out for 60 or 30-minute break after they've worked 4 hours. You can also add a custom break rule. So if you want the employee to be able to clock out for 30 minutes after 3 hours, you can also do 6 hours or any time over X amount of minutes. So if you have a standard that you want to set up, a custom one can be created. And then it would just need to be assigned to the employee. Holiday schedule. This is where the observed holidays are set up. For the past 2 years, we've had the instance where a holiday could fall on a Saturday. Those are the holidays to look at every year for those holidays that could flow depending on where that day of the year falls. So we always know Memorial Day is the last Monday. So that one typically doesn't fall on a Saturday, where Christmas or New Year's could fall on a Saturday. So we have all of these holidays in here that we could set up. We can also set up a custom holiday. So if your particular company has a day that you allow your employees off, it could be for the day after Christmas. It could be Good Friday, any holidays that you observe, or you're shutting down the office to do a team building activity. Those can be set up in here so that the employees are automatically paid for that day if it is a paid day. Okay. So this is our online time clock. The hub system is very basic, as it's the web browser version. It's very simple for employees to use. It allows them to track their hours. They can also request PTO off in here. We do have, if you're looking for a little bit more functionality, we do have another time clock. I just want to mention that does GPS tracking. It does geolocation. They actually have physical clocks. So if you're looking for a physical clock for your office instead of a web clock, we have another option as well. So that is the online time clock. Does anyone have any questions?